let's talk about a little bit of time at Princeton. What was the major differences that you experienced when you got to Princeton versus being at somewhere like Penn State, whether it's the players, the operation, like how was that?
Well, it's, first things first, Princeton athletics. I mean, it's a really great thing now. But back then, like the support there, I think they had some losing seasons. So like football and athletics as general is kind of viewed as like the biology department. It's like a department. And I never felt like that. That's just me being honest. I never felt like that at Penn State. Like, this is Penn State football. Like
everything
this is everything here.
Rotated around us. Yeah.
Exactly. So here, like you got all these roadblocks. So you don't have meeting rooms. So you're dealing with the facilities guy who doesn't work on the weekends, but you have meetings to do. Like you work around everyone else. I've never experienced that. And, continuing in my career, being at Brown, being at UConn, Penn State not Penn State that much, but, the level of support varies from stop to stop, from where administration sees you, athletic department, and where the university perceives and feels about where your football program and where athletics is in general. So that was kind of a culture shock that, Princeton football wasn't the number one thing on campus. Obviously it's not, but it's the number one school in the world, university-wise, so where does football rank in there? So that was, and it's all about fighting to make them care about your program and show that you have really impressive kids here who can knock it in the classroom and can be successful on the field. Like, this is a great thing to showcase and, fighting for that support and supporting those players. So that was pretty eye-opening.
Was there any difference with the players? I mean, you mentioned if the whole university and everyone that's kind of coming there is like kind of academically focused. Like, how were the players? Like, did they? I mean, it's like just real quick, when we recruited guys, like you knew some guys were like, man, I'm coming here to play football, like, and I'm trying to go to the NFL, and like that was just sometimes too lopsided. But I would imagine that the players that are coming there, did they care as much about football, or was it? Like, what was it?
Just depends.
Okay.
It depends. We talk about that 50-50 that Andy talks about. It was definitely more academics. So maybe it's, and it varies with each person, but I would say the team, 65, 35 academics. Like, that's why they're there. Let's be honest. And it's hard, but I will tell you the demands from a football perspective are still as high as they are other places.
And that's what I was wondering. So, like, if guys have labs or anything, it's like, yeah, I'm going to lab. I can't make practice. Like, was that happening a lot, or?
Sometimes, I mean, look, academics there's less wiggle room out of academic obligations, so that you don't see, scheduling and some stuff. Like, if somebody has to miss practice for a lab, you try to avoid it on the front end, obviously, when you schedule. But if this is the kid's major, he's going to miss practice once a week. Like, it is what it is. There's no postseason. Like, there are some hard rules that they're not bending.
Like when we used to schedule our classes, like, you could not have a class in the fall after 2:00. Like, I mean, after 1:00. Like,
correct.
You're just not allowed. So
it's just not happening. Yeah.
Can't do it.
So they do their best to have those parameters, but there's one-offs that some guys have to miss. Not often, but look, they're as serious as every other program, though. That's what I will say. The quality of football is still very good. The coaching is very good, and the resources aren't. If there are more resources in that league, it could blow up. Like,
I can see that. I mean, there's a lot. They produce a lot of. I mean, whether it's talent with Ryan Fitzpatrick or just front office talent with Andrew Berry, or coaches. I mean, a lot of guys come from the Ivy Leagues, and obviously, different personnel, owners, they respect that level of education, and like what you're saying, it's a true balance of having to take care of the academics and with the rigors of the football program or requirements that you need to meet there are still on point. Were there any different movements that you saw from the players when you were working there, that they were taking advantage of that Princeton ecosystem that was maybe different than you saw at Penn State versus when we worked there and when you were on the team?
Oh, you're talking like alumni?
Alumni, or just even how the players interacted with alumni, or like the opportunities that they were trying to take advantage of. Like, how was that in comparison?
Oh, it's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. My stops at Princeton and Brown.
Oh, give it to us. Let us know what it is. Because a lot of guys, I think when they get that, like I mean, I've always been a proponent, like, man, if you can't go to Ivy League school and get that offer, like, commit.
Absolutely. Like you talk about taking care of your own. These alums are so invested in the program, not just financially, but their time. They come back and give workshops and actually, like professional development roundtables. Like they have a bunch of career days, and they talk about all the different industries you could go in. So they get a representative from all different industries, and these dudes are CEOs, like these very, very successful people, as you can imagine. And the internships are so vast during the summers, and the opportunities are always there. They always take care of their own. And there's mentor programs where a player will get paired up with somebody in their field that they're interested in, and they have constant communication, and they always check up on it. And it's everyone. The placement after school is phenomenal.
So it's not just a matter of playing football and just kind of going through it. It's like,
well
no,
beyond.
it's you're really ingrained. One of my good friends, Evan, Ali. What's up, Ali? But he went to Princeton to play corner. We came out the same year, and he would come to the Penn State games, but he talks about like the different like directories that they have, where they have like meet and greets at the end. And it's just like you have to be in Princeton to kind of get in there and do the different stuff. So
it's extremely exclusive. It's very exclusive because everyone is focused on the same thing. And like making the NFL, that's a bonus. But it's, you get into the programs and it's setting you up for your career outside of football at those schools. That's where the focus is. It's figuring out what you want to do, getting you with people in the professional fields. I have never seen anything like it. It's pretty amazing.
So give me an example of a program that maybe can be implemented at Power 5 universities, because even Penn State, we we used to market a lot of the highest paying dues, alumni. Everyone's active. You can get in touch. And I mean, I made all my connections, or a lot of connections, post football, post sports, from alumni associations or alumni connections. But like, give me an example of maybe something they can adopt from the Ivy League that they facilitate that.
Yeah. So I think it's about having, getting the local guys on campus. I think that's the easiest way to get with the players and run these professional type of workshops, not just kind of a career fair type of thing, but something deeper where there's connection between. So I think there's a lot of power in these mentor programs. You get alumni, I think Power 5, get people who want to be involved, who want to help in the industry. Like, I want to help these kids. Like, I want to help Penn State players. I want to help all players who want to work in the field. Like, pair me up with somebody who's interested in, like, kids don't know what they don't know. So, like, what field you want to get into, what field you don't want to get into, they need that exposure. And I think hearing it from former players who've been in those seats, who've been in the program you've been through, and who care, who have that passion to help, you got to have that aligned. So I think making meaningful programs, nights into days, like I think those type of events can, and you have a couple throughout the year. I think those are the most powerful, and to have that consistent communication through the year, it would be huge.
I can't agree more, man. So if you guys ever need anything at UConn, you can call me and LIG Sports Group. We can talk about it. I'm not an alum, but those are the type of things that we're trying to do here, in the sense of showing that you can go through the process, and when guys come back, to help connect those dots in a trustworthy way. Because I think even all Power 5 universities, even when you look to, I don't know if you guys do this, so I don't know if I'm taking a shot, but like some schools that are putting out the luxury cars during the visits, and having the guys taking pictures, and like the Lamborghinis, and to each his own, right? We just I don't like that the same people that set it up are the same ones that make fun of kids when 30 for 30 broke comes out, or when guys have different modes that they want to go into. It's like, yeah, NIL is great, but like, I've talked to a lot of coaches. It's like, man, I'm not recruiting a kid that has all this different stuff. It's like, we're trying to figure out if he loves the game. Like, we have to deal with this guy, throughout this process. And one of the major points, I remember me going through the recruiting process, that was like a sticking thing that was always like, wow, is when you saw people not really go off and become CEOs and come back, because somewhere at Penn State, like it happens a lot, but it typically wasn't the star players that were doing it, like the guys that were balling. So like when your number one goal is to play and to do your thing, it's like, but he didn't play. So like, why is he talking to me? Or he just walked on. Because like I think it does happen sometimes, but it's like when you're coming from like a place like Princeton, or it's like oh, the CEO of this company, it's like, oh, I'm here for this. Let me listen to what he has to say. But at Power 5 universities, typically it's the NFL guys.
Yeah.
Right? Like the NFL guys that come back.
Yeah.
Whatever. I had a lot of jewelry at one point, but like come back with all the jewelry, come back and it's a little bit, that becomes the billboard of what's produced. And then like, so the mentality of a lot of the guys on the team, if they don't already have that mentality of I'm coming here to get this, and this is where this all fits in, it gets disjointed to obviously work harder to get to the NFL, get on the field and do all those different things that you need to do. But the main thing that you're referring to at these, Ivy League schools, where it's like the facilitation of getting like a 30, 40-year career job that makes a lot more.
That's where they funnel it. Yeah.
So I think that's impressive. I think all Power 5 universities need to even get into that standpoint. And I mean, that's one of the whys of why I started LIG Sports Group, is just like, oh, no, you can go through both, because I believe in having an acceleration plan. So I do not feel like it's fair to tell a kid that has dreams or aspirations of playing either D1 level or going to any professional level in sports and say that, well, what are you going to do after this? Like how do you work on something when you're trying to get to the top 1% in this thing? You know what I mean? But like in that pursuit of that top 1%, or in that pursuit of this anomaly type of area that you can get into professional sports, or a D1 football player, or whatever, anywhere in that space, you're exposed to so many different avenues of business, of commerce. Like when you talk about logistics, I mean, working at the XFL league office, like the whole thing is like logistics and strategy. Like it's like, all right, where's the water coming? Where's the Pepsi? Where's the like everything is about building out a business. And then like the product is the product. And sometimes in college, we lose track of how much it is a business, because obviously the players don't get paid the way they should or whatever. But I mean, that's not the point of this conversation. You guys know how I feel about that. But you know what I'm saying? Like where those are like different opportunities to kind of fill in those gaps. Because sometimes I wonder, because I mean, I'll see guys now committing to schools, and nothing against James Madison or D1AA programs, but like I'll see guys committing there, like I'll be here for the next 3 years, going to the NFL. I'm like, whoa, like how are you, like you're thinking about like, not that you can't go to NFL from James Madison, but that's a pretty wild thing to put in your commit. Like only going to be here for 3 years. Like, oh, so you think of the 276 guys that get drafted, like. Oh, all right. Like that's cool. I mean, I'm all good for confidence, right? I'm not pushing anything, but it's just a level of where do we put the game in the process? Because sometimes I think the schools facilitate it. I mean, local handlers or trainers facilitate. Focus on like you got to focus on it to get there. But that's why I believe that it needs to have an acceleration plan. In that focus, what unique perspective are you getting that other people aren't getting? Because we got a lot of different viewpoints on the business from just being Penn State football players, that when we transitioned out, we were like, oh, this is kind of, we know how these things work at the highest level. So we know like the business behind it, like, and you don't. Like, and you start seeing some people that may not.
Exactly.
You know? And it's a nice opportunity even for, I think, athletes and any athletes in general to like have an interest in the sports business, because it's not just coaching, it's not just being a general manager. Like there's like true operations, there's marketing, there's brand development. Like now NIL's coming out, there's different type of service providers where you actually have you're the specialist in this process, right? Like
you've lived it. Like that is the rarest thing, for you to live the experience. Going like the players now, going through NIL, going through the recruiting process, going through a football program, probably coaching changes. Like you're dealing with things as a firsthand account. So you think about that, and when you're done, your playing career's done, you go into the real world with those rare, unique opportunities. How do you leverage that into a profession to make it natural? I think.
No, you're right. Because I don't think it's a given. I think that's the one thing that athletes, I mean, if you get from this, it's not just, we're not saying just because you're an athlete, you can do these things, but it's an opportunity to build on this nice foundation to make you a dynamic outlier type of candidate, entrepreneur, or anything pretty quickly if you pay attention, to the different aspects that you're getting and you're building up. Because I mean, I realized it when I got into corporate America a little bit, and it was just like, oh, like these are the high. Oh, you don't like seeing your own film when it's bad, or it's like you just start seeing different advantages that you have, right? Like
when I got into this industry, like when I was 23, 24, I met some of these football operations conferences, and and I'm seeing the speakers and their backgrounds and things. I have a widely different perspective than them. I'm like, I got a chance at this. I come at it with a former player who paid attention to these things and how they work and how the student athlete is going to be affected. I mean, that's powerful. So like that's how I leverage, and I continue to stay in this. My perspective's still super unique to a lot of people.
I mean, athletic directors. There's so many different areas because we're talking about an industry that's worth $1 billion. I mean, multi-billion dollars, right? Even when you get up into the NFL or different things of that nature. So it's like when athletes kind of, I don't know, shoot themselves in the foot going through it. I try to really reiterate. I mean, the entry point into your career is not that far from the ending of your recruiting process, and it's all the same people. You know what I mean? So like, if you go through the recruiting process like an asshole, or you just like kind of operate in some type of way, you're blocking off so many different opportunities because like
it's going to follow you.
It's going to follow you so fast because like we know how it is in a staff meeting. Like we talk about the recruits, like, and even if I didn't spend time with them and everybody else did, like, and they talk about player X, like I'm thinking about player X this way. You know what I mean? And like,
right, it's already built.
So
like
if
that.
I'm going to a school or someone's asking me about player X, I'm like, man, all I know is somebody say he was an asshole. Like, I mean. Even I'm not going to say the names, but like there's like draft picks or people that are coming up now where it's just like you hear about the different rumors or like, oh, he had character issues and this person had character issues, and I'm like, there's players that when we were there, like my interns would come back like, yo, this guy is a jerk, like this guy's whatever, and or how that gets matriculated to the media when it comes out there, and like the things that follow you around and to get those jobs, like. It's in your scouting report, and like the people that are reading the scouting report are talking to HR. Like the people that are talking to HR are talking to the coaches, and it's like, but it starts at like 14 years old. That's all, guys.
It really does, and it's hard for a 14-year-old to understand. It's hard for an 18-year-old to understand that. Now we have the benefit of hindsight, but like that's what we're here for. That's what you're doing now. Is like we're putting game on for the kids. Like. Start now, because it starts now.
This is a great opportunity. I mean, it wasn't until, obviously, I was my dad was the athletic director and a high school head coach. So I was like, all right, I have a unique view. So I was like a unique perspective. But it wasn't until like my second year at Penn State where I met Louis Riddick at a pro day, just to introduce myself. Like, yo, what's up? I mean, love what you're doing. Like, any advice? I mean, him, Kevin Colbert, and Mike Tomlin, but this specifically with Louis Riddick, he was the first person that was saying, like, this position is made, like, these positions are made for you. Like, he was the first person, and, like, as an athlete, because, like, when I transitioned out of the game and tried to get back into football, I'll tell everybody here, I got denied, like, 80 times. 80, not 8, not 18, 80. So that's like sending letters to everybody. I do have the rejection letters. Like I have the reasons and all those different things. And sometimes in colleges, sometimes even my alma mater. Like, but it ended up working out there. But that's
same.
But like we're just at different places, whether it's tapping back into different resources. And I was like, the door was shut in my face, and I was like, it messed me up. Like it messed me up pretty heavy, and I like got a game plan. I was like, I'm going to corporate America, get this, and I started seeing the different things that happened there. I got an opportunity, and I worked at ATI and Ideal Physical Therapy, where we went through a transition where the company got acquired, and so it was like a startup culture, but it was in the medical field. So I had front row seats to like the CEO, the VP, and everything. So they're coming to Dallas in a new market, and I'm like the guy that's giving SWOT analysis. I'm giving all these different stuff, and like as I'm breaking down the different areas and the different offices or the different doctors, and like I'm like, man, this is this is like personnel to an extent. Like when we're like breaking down this, I was like, now I have like all this like, corporate stuff that they're like feeding me, going to these different sales trainings. And I'm like, and my dad comes down to recruit a player, and I like go to a high school with him, like as they're going to practice, just to watch and see like, oh, like let me see exactly what they're doing. I'm like, he's talking to the coach. He's talking like, you do what I do. Like I was like, hold on. I was like,
it's the same
thing. I was like, oh, I need to get back into sports. I was like, I could take this, converge all of my personnel background and unique experiences, and get back into the game.
The cool thing when you got to Penn State, when I was there, I mean, we talked a lot about outside of the game stuff and how the parallels of, I don't know, our former lives, our outside lives, how it connected. I think that's where we had a really strong connection, just talking about the other stuff.
I think it brings, I try to tell guys all the time, I mean, it just brings a level of dynamic qualities or just perspectives onto the game, because like when you're working in football or working in sports, it becomes like a echo chamber, right? Like, I mean, you don't really have time to watch the news. Like you're not really in tune with different things. Like, cause I mean, the average span of a staff is 3 years in Power 5. So like these guys that are making six figures, $1 million, like there's pressure. Like, so like there's a reason that there's like a hyper focus, but when you start looking at other things, or how this operation is ran, or how this operation is ran, or you just come from corporate America, there's a little bit more red tape that you have to go around. And then you start seeing how people operate over here versus operate here. And it's like, wait, why are we doing this over here? Because we had the same situation at the XFL, at the league office, Vince and Oliver, they brought different people in that never worked in football before. Like, I mean, even my guy, Sam Schwartzman, who changed the rules, he was very smart, a football mind and all those different things, but it was like his first legit football job. And now he's working at Amazon doing the analytics on Thursday nights. But he brought his product development from Chegg in Silicon Valley to the process. So they were looking for everybody with these different external factors, because the whole point was to reimagine football. So I just thought that was like a really cool thing, because it was like throwing things up against the wall and seeing what's stuck. And like we've all like the idea of like we've always done this, or this industry standard didn't exist.
Yeah.
So like it was like
exactly.
So we're challenging everybody. We're challenging Bob Stoops. We're challenging Jerry Glanville. Oh, you're gonna blitz like this. I was like, well, if you only have 25 seconds, how are you gonna get the personnel? And you start realizing that everybody's just kind of operating off these different fact patterns that they've been closed in. And like, you don't want any other fact patterns that kind of have come from the outside to kind of give anything, because it might invalidate what you're saying. You might have to change your steez on how you operate and different things like that. But no, I think we did. And I think it's very important for guys, even when they are transitioning out, I think there's value in working in corporate America for a little bit. Like I really do. I don't think it's a requirement for everyone. You know what I mean? Like I've gotten into arguments where people's like, oh, you have to work outside to get back in, because it's hard to get back in. Like, you know what I mean? So I think it's easy to, if you're going into it and starting to show your value, or that you want to work in football. Like that's the one thing I think I missed. I know I always wanted to be a general manager, work in football early, but at the same time, as a player, I was still a player first. So like, I didn't like going upstairs. Like I didn't want to go upstairs and talking to the coaches. Like I wasn't asking. Like, I'm like, man, that's you telling on people. Like I just messed up with however it was, but I didn't take full advantage of those different type of relationships. I stayed in I would challenge coaches in the sense of like, yo, Scrap, put me on. Ooh, what are we doing this week from a X and O standpoint? But like, they still viewed me as that player that was kind of like this. Like I never really positioned myself, like even coming with the information I was coming with, I never positioned like, yo, this is what I want to do afterwards. So this is why I'm talking to you about it. Because, I mean, look at Fessler. You know what I'm saying? He's the OC at shout out to Fest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Shout out to Fest. But like I remember him being a walk-on coming up in like the second, third year. I was like, yo, Jomo, let me help out with these cars. Let me do this, all these good things. And it was like early, and he gets a start. Now he was able to use the advantage of even being a walk-on at somewhere like Penn State, getting the experience, jumping into the game, and now here he is, 26-year-old offensive coordinator. And I tell guys all the time,
exactly,
if you can't go to the NFL after the second year, man, get that student assistant job, man. Coaches out here hiring.
Yeah, he started that. It's crazy because like Fessler, he started that as a young sophomore, and he left a huge impression in just the way he signaled. Like he added value, and he added value to our team, to Jomo, and he stayed with Jomo. He was at Ohio State as a GA. Now an OC at Akron, like
26.
he saw it. He had the vision at 26. He had the vision as a student.
He was
Like
able to leverage
that's what
it
we
right
said.
there, right? Like you leverage the
Exactly.
opportunities, and it all comes in. It definitely comes in from the standpoint of like I think your perspective of when you're coming in as a recruit, like because that's where it starts. Because I think there's a misconception that when you get to college that you're going to develop. That's what I tell people that all the time. I mean, the development stops when I hate to say it, but the development stops when you get to college. Like if you go to the NFL, like there's things that happen subconsciously as you continue to mature, but in terms of intentional development in certain things, because I mean, you got to get on the field. I gotta take care of my body. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. So like any type of baggage that you brought into high school is typically sticking with you. And if you go to the NFL, I mean, money solves a lot of problems that like, oh, well, I can figure that out with this. I can figure out that with that. And you don't really get hit in the face until you leave the game. But a lot of times when guys are coming in where it's in its right bucket, you can see the different opportunities that you can take advantage of and like really really massage it into where you make that easy transition out. Because like that's the one common thread that I've seen from a lot of people that I interviewed on the show is that the people that went into the college game knowing that they were almost playing with house money, like the outcomes, like were not that they were much different, but it was like, I mean, you can see they're doing very well, but versus someone that maybe like came in with a lot of pressure, like Derek. I remember him mentioning that he, like, looking back, he just wished he wasn't the number one player like in the country. And I was like, wow, that's a very insightful thing because he was just so engulfed in that. And, you know, now he's killing it in the entrepreneurial world and as a, you know, in medical sales or just orthopedic sales and all that good stuff. But just him seeing all the different things that he had to get, like obviously he had the competitiveness and he put those blocks back in place. But he talks about like, man, I could have made this so much easier because all this stuff was afforded to us here, but I just wasn't paying attention. And like, and I was, and to my, like, I was ignorant to the fact of like the tactical things that you needed to do to make that known that you wanted to do something else. Like, right. Like, I mean, I was going out with the scouts when they would come up. So I'm like, well, I'm talking to you guys every year. Like, I mean, obviously this is what I want to do. Like, but you got to put yourself out there a little bit more. And sometimes as an athlete, we're not groomed to do that because it's a meritocracy.
Right. And it's crazy because like I had obviously coming as a walk-on, I had the total opposite perspective because I saw it wasn't happening for me on the field. I keep, you know, I'm working hard, but I see they bring in new scholarship receivers in every year who's getting opportunities and opportunities. I said, okay, I got to pivot a little bit. I got to take advantage of outside this building and in the building. So I'm working with TK, Academic Center, like working on internships, working on carving my path outside of the game. So, you know, you got to have awareness. I think looking in the mirror, knowing who you are, knowing what possible outcomes. I'm not saying to give up your dreams or anything, but I think you always got to check in and be honest with yourself and try to give yourself the most options for you. So if you go for one, you could land on a net of another option. It's about keeping yourself with the most options possible.
And I love that because that's exactly what I mean when I like that acceleration plan. Like, because everything that you're doing in the sport, don't think about something being a fallback. Like, love football or love gym, like love tennis, love golf, and have, you know, something else. Like whether I'm talking to a kid and I'm like, yo, what do you want to do after football or sports? It's like, I want to get into business. I'm like, that sounds cool. You know, you're entering $1 billion business right now. So like, we could start getting this experience like at this moment, like recruiting and personnel, all those different things like that. HR supply chain of human capital is, I mean, that's big business in general, right? Like, I mean, even from the standpoint that the things that they're going through, I mean, I tell a story about helping Glassdoor with their CPO role and just dealing with different executives. And like that process to get like a $400,000 job in corporate America is way less stringent than the process for like a 14, 15, 16-year-old to get a scholarship offer. Because like that evaluation process is 3 to 4 years. To get a job, it might be 2 to 3 months. Like seriously. And like the different things that you can learn through the process and kind of gear up to take off when you get into corporate America or wherever your professional career leads you. Do you have anybody that was like the most influential, I think, through this process, whether it was transition out of the game or while you were at Penn State?
That's a good question. No, I got to be honest with you because, when my senior year is when all the people, like our coaching staff, it was the scandal and everything. So usually it's all who you know, who you can lean on, and people hire from within, who they played, who they coached. And I lost that whole ecosystem. So I kind of felt on an island, and there was a new coaching staff at Penn State uh, after I graduated. So I didn't know any of them. I didn't know the next staff. So I felt lost, honestly. So it was all about trying to break back through. I knew like my experiences would catch up from the experiences I had, but this is all who you know in this industry, especially breaking in. Who's going to take a chance on you? And when I had really nobody in my corner, it was a challenge. So that probably was a part of those 2 years that helped me get in. Probably why I got in at a $10,000 job, but it kept me hungry, kept me going. And, the people I rely on now in this industry are people I worked with, people I worked for, not really people from when I was a player, to be honest with you. So that's a little unique from my
No,
experience.
I think that's true. I mean, you talk about that circle of trust. When people are hiring you, it's not really about just knowing you. It's like, all right, do I trust you? Like, where's your evidence of impact
Yeah.
that you can do this? Because like you understand in the back end or being a DFO and running the whole operation, like if I tell assistant X or director X to do this, like I just need you to do it A through Z and like know exactly the context that it needs to be done and different things of that nature. So from your perspective from a DFO's perspective, and you're building a staff, you're the chief intelligence officer of a football machine, right? What would be some advice that you would give to upcoming coaches in the industry to kind of make the most out of this career, or even someone working in the back end recruiting football ops to continue to move up in a successful way?
Yeah, I think it's all about adding value, adding your personal value. How do you differentiate yourself to support the team? Whether that's supporting on the field, like you got to be unique in what you bring, and maybe that's your work ethic, maybe that's a certain skill with Excel, how you evaluate players. Like, who are
Now, you
you?
hit something with that
Like,
Excel
what?
thing, but go ahead. My bad.
Yeah, like there's so many. Like, that's that corporate thing, but who are you, and what can you bring to the organization? Like there's so many people that want to be in this field. It's a grind, it's a challenge, but what do you bring? What differentiates you from the people, from the hundreds of resumes that line up? Like, is it how you communicate with players? Is it your communication skills with the staff? Like, who are you? What has your experience turned you into, and how you can help a head coach? Where's your value? Like, that's what you got to ask yourself, and that's kind of how you need to sell yourself when going to an organization. Like, what are you bringing? Who are you?
Are you? And I think that's
What do you
what
care
do you
about?
care about? And these
Like,
are all
yeah,
the same questions that you have to ask yourself in this NIL process when you're
yeah,
going through it. So like a lot of times players aren't asking themselves that when they're going through the game or when they're leaving, because like, I mean, I don't really care. I need to score these touchdowns. I need to stop him from scoring these touchdowns. I need to make this tackle. I need to make this touchdown. Even if I need to graduate, or even if I get a good GPA, or all those different things, you're not positioning yourself of like where my value is outside of this game. And like you can really start to figure it out if you know what you want to do, especially in that NIL space, because guys get to build a brand, or I want to do this off the field. And I'm like, it's great for professional branding because as you're moving up, you can articulate what you want to do. You can start putting yourselves in those type of situations, and you can start self-correcting just behaviors. Because like if I want to be a GM, or if I want to if I'm coming in as a recruit and I want to be a DFO like Goody, I'm probably going to operate different around Goody. Like I'm probably going to ask certain questions
yeah,
differently around Goody versus like, oh, Goody's just the guy that books the planes and does all those contracts. So like, he's not my coach. Like whatever. But really, like it's pretty cool opportunity to like tap on that type of knowledge and different things in that realm. Because I mean, there's 50 positions in the back end of football programs, like on the low end, right? And a lot of times just don't disqualify yourself, man, when you're going through this process, you
yeah.
know?
I always say, like, when you're building value, like, think it as a player, as a staff member. Like, you're in the hiring process. If I'm in a hiring process for, an equipment manager, a recruiting staff member, strength, like, you're going to talk about, all right, well, you try to envision them in the space and them interacting with the players, interacting with the staff. Why are they on the staff? Like, well, how do they make us better? Same thing. You're talking about a player. Like, what does he give you? How many plays is he going to give you? Is he dependable? Does he know the plays? Is he going to catch the ball? Like, that's how you're being described. So if you have the self-awareness and you build yourself into aligning with what, like, if you're working on what you want them to talk to you about or to call you about. I lost my train of thought there.
You're all good.
Cut this out. You know what I'm saying,
I do know what you're saying.
Like, you want to align with who you're trying to be with what they want you to be or what they rely on you for.
And you're right. It has to be authentic because, like, the faking of the aspect is hard, especially for football play. I mean, for players, because you're coming out and there's a level of aggression that comes with things. And, like, you have some stuff to you, right? And when you're coming out, sometimes I've seen players, whether they want to transition and work, they try to act a certain type of way. Like, I think this is how they want to be. And then, like, they end up stripping all the special sauce off of them, right? And it's like, who is this guy? Like, is he even confident in what he's doing? Because it's like, and then it's a catch-22 sometimes, because if you come in with, like, the attitude or brash, mannerisms, then some people feel a little insecure and don't want
it's
that
a perfect
around.
balance.
It's a balance. And that's the learning and the curve process, because there's just a lot of opportunities that we can use in just the sports ecosystem. And you can learn a lot just from working in the business, of sports.
Yes.
So, no, this has been great, man. We like to end it off with one of my favorite quotes, man. There's no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that is less than the one that you are capable of living. From Nelson Mandela. And that's what I think these guys, like, when we talk about acceleration plans, like, you can have an opportunity to love what you do, man. When I got to Expo, that was my dream job. I'm like, it's like, it's evaluation. I'm dealing with this. We're talking about branding. We're talking about, how do they do it at the X? How did you build up the brand of Stone Cold Steve Austin or Razor? Like, it was just like, whoa. And then right before the NIL stuff hits, it's like, this is exactly, what this game is. And just seeing all the different opportunities. And I think it's a great time for guys going through the recruiting process or just in college, that this whole sports ecosystem is for us. And you can maneuver and maximize this process more so than just whether it's getting an offer or just going to school. Obviously everybody wants to make it to the NFL, but we know the statistics there, and I'm not going to draw that in, but there's a lot of different opportunities where guys make a lot more money than the guys that make it to the NFL. Which,
for a long time, opportunities are limitless. If you want to be in this thing,
opportunities are limitless.
They really are.
Man. Goody, man. We really appreciate it. Like you said, man, make sure you guys have a plan, education when you're going through this process, and take advantage, coming in with a level of gratitude when you're going this. Because when that does happen, man, you can see the different opportunities, having a plan and a blueprint. So we offer here the Blueprint to Success coaching program, 6 months. Guys going through this process, making sure that you understand your weaknesses, your strengths, and what you can take advantage of through this process, and make sure that that's going the way that you want it to go. And we'll end it with that. So again, good. Thank you so much for jumping on, man, giving a lot of knowledge and some game for these guys and gals to go through the recruiting process and just the elite sports ecosystem, man. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Always great catching up, JK.
Time, man.